I truly do not think we're going to get a season 2 of this show. I don't think we need a season 2. After rewatching it on 1.75 speed all of yesterday, I just kept thinking, we don't need to do this again. This needed to happen once, and never again. Put it in the vault, put it away, rewatch it when you think something like this should exist again, and then don't do it. Well, here we are, so... Welcome back to the Max Reality. If you've seen my face before, then you know the drill, but if you are new here, I love talking all things reality TV, and today we are revisiting a show that I talked about almost a year ago now that I truly did not think that would ever come back in any form, shape, or fashion, but here we are to talk about Season 2 of Milf Manor. I will say this year I learned from my mistakes of last year and I worked smarter, not harder. Last year I told y'all I watched the show live as it was going and then rewatched it all, sped up. This time I waited for the show to end and then I watched all of it in a couple days at 1.5 speed. That is how I'd recommend to watch this show. So if you're saying to yourself, Season 2? I never even heard of this show. What are you talking about? Never fear, because there is a Season 1, and I made a video about it, like I was just saying, and I'm going to link it right here. But I'll give you a quick little recap if you didn't see anything about it and don't want to watch that video. In Season 1, Milf Manor was a show where, dang it, the same thing, it's the same problem I had last time. I don't know how to explain this without it sounding weird. It's because it is weird. It's a show where mothers and sons are dating each other. But like I said last time, the moms aren't dating their own sons. The sons are just in the same dating pool of everyone they're dating. And that was that show. This season, they decided to take a different approach with the show, which I was personally very thankful for, especially in the beginning. When it starts out, we're meeting these beautiful older women, and then we meet younger, attractive guys, and nobody is related in any form, shape, or fashion. And I was sitting there like, yes, this is the show I want to watch. I am so pumped. But I should have known better that TLC wouldn't just leave it at that. No. Because by the end of the first episode, we find out what the twist is. And the twist is all the young men, their dads come in to also date the MILFs. Yep, and now it is time to introduce you to the brave souls who decided to subject themselves to this show. First up, we have Barbie, who is 45, Christina, who's 46, Crystal, 48, Jamie, 51, Kelly Mack, 59, and Lynette, who is 50. On to the men, we start out with 6 father-son duos. We have Anthony, 54, and his son Joey, 21, Darren, 57, and his son Sam, who's 24, Ashley, who is 54, and his son Jacob, who is 23, Stacy, who's 54, and his son Miles, who's 24, Michael, who is 51, and his son Christopher, who is 27. Now that you've met our starting players, it's time for me to get into the different episodes. This is your warning ahead of time that while I'm talking about this, I'm not really going to talk about the different drama and the different relationships that were formed. Those aren't the things that interest me in this kind of show, and it's hard to keep notes about that sort of stuff. This isn't really what this video is going to be. I'll be talking more about the challenges and the format of the way they introduced different things in the show. So if you're looking for a recap of the drama between everybody, this isn't going to be quite it. So that's your warning now. I still think it's a fun time though. So we start episode 1. We meet the women and we meet the young men. Because like I was saying earlier, we don't find out about the dads until the very end of episode 1. So we start off really weird with 6 guys and 5 women. I would love an explanation on why somebody felt like that was necessary. Did somebody drop out last minute? Because it made it weird for the first challenge. For the first challenge, there weren't enough people to all pair up. So they were like, one of the women is going to have to be the host of the challenge, which comes up again later when they get odd numbers and different things. And I'm just like, don't do that. That's such a weird, it's so weird. It feels very easily solved to just have the same number of people for the very beginning. Especially because, spoiler alert, nobody's getting eliminated right away anyway, so having the odd numbers, weird choice. So our very first challenge, the men and women have to team up, and they have maple syrup in jars, and they have to pour it all over each other and then run across this field and try to get the maple syrup off themselves into a jar, and whoever has the most maple syrup at the end gets to win a date to go out together. And I will say this very first episode was giving me so much false hope. Like, while that's a very odd and weird challenge, it feels very like Love Island, and it's not uncomfortable because none of them are related. So we're already doing so much better than season 1. We're also doing a lot better already with there being like a nice clear format. A lot of times with season 1, there would be dates that people got, but they were very irrelevant because people could also just leave the manor and take people on dates. It didn't feel very structured or even. And I will say, even continuing on, this show had a much better structure and flow just from like a technical point of a reality TV show. But also, because of the odd number, they're just like, the winner gets to go on a date. And also, Barbie, who ended up being the host for this, she gets to pick any man she wants and go on a date with him. And it's like, why? Like, again, that part really, I was like, I have hope, but this is weird. We're starting off a little wonky. The date happens, life goes on, and then the big twist, the end of the episode, the dads of the young men come out. Cut to black, cliffhanger.
Oh my God, the dads are hotter than the sons.
Even the one on the crutch.
And I just want to point out that, like I said, I watched all of this after it had aired, and somehow I remained unspoiled about the twist. When those guys' dads walked in, I straight up was like, oh my gosh, what a twist. There was other things I knew, but I had no idea the dads were in there. I got to be just as shocked, which was so fun, because usually something like that I would have seen somewhere by now. Don't know how I did it. A miracle. Somebody was watching for me, so I would get one moment of like fun enjoyment out of the show. And I'm gonna be honest, my very first impression of this was I thought I was gonna like it. I wasn't really thinking very clearly when I thought that, but I was like, yeah, I think I can get into this concept. This is better than the sons and the moms dating, but it gives them their weird TLC twist that they like. I very quickly changed my mind after continuing to watch it, but we'll get there as we get there. As you can imagine, though, my initial reaction was very different from the men's sons' reaction.
No. He said I lose. No, because we're sitting there talking, and my dad goes, oh, what do you do? He goes, I sell private jets, and they all just go.
The number one thing I have to bring up about them bringing these guys' dads in is there's this one young man named Miles, and once he sees his dad, we find out that they like haven't talked in years. Like, he has a distant relationship. I don't remember exactly what all the circumstances around it were, but he hasn't talked to this man in years. And TLC was just like, here you go, figure it out on TV. That's diabolical. That was not, I don't know what kind of like drama, whatever. I hope that you got what you wanted out of that, whatever producer came up with that, because there's a special place in hell for you. That just feels super duper evil. I don't care if they come out and say like, well, it was for the best, like, you know, they did us a favor. That wasn't your decision to make, TLC producer who's not even watching this, but I'm ranting at. After some time of mixing and mingling, we get into challenge 2, which is where I immediately said, oh, nope, just kidding. Don't like this concept either. They split the men into 2 teams, fathers versus sons, and each team has to come up with a striptease to do in front of the ladies. I hear that, and I was like, okay, fun. Can't be fun, though, because this is Milf Manor, and each team has to watch the other team as they perform. Criminal, a crime, TLC, I'm calling 911. I would have left. I couldn't do it. If it was me and my mom, that's a different concept we're going to talk about more toward the end of this, but I was just putting myself straight in those shoes. If I had to watch my mother, I don't even want to think about it. I want to erase that. I wrote in my notes, so uncomfortable to watch. I want to forget this immediately. And that's still how I feel. I was so upset by this. I didn't even write who won. I think the dads won, but honestly, everybody lost because horrible, horrible, horrible time. And that pretty much sums up episode 2. We begin episode 3 with a surprise bombshell coming in. This was one of the things I did get spoiled about. And that is Kelly from season 1 is back, baby. Kelly is 52 and she has 6 kids. I am telling you that so I can now play a moment that made me laugh so hard I replayed it like 3 times.
She has 6 kids, and that's like a lot of kids for one individual. And so it's definitely raising some flags. They're not red or green, just yellow. Again, proceed with caution and see what comes out of it.
So with Kelly being the new woman in the house, she gets the opportunity to pick a father-son duo and go on a date with the both of them together. That already feels bad enough on its own, but just wait, because it's not just like getting dinner or even just like doing some sort of weird challenge. They do tantric yoga together. The 3 of them physically together. Criminal. Crimes are happening on TV and we are watching them. I was so glad I was watching it in 1.5, and then I was doing other stuff while I was watching it, because if I had just been sitting there watching that at normal speed, I probably would have thrown up. Like, poor everybody involved in that scenario. I hated it. And again, this show tricks you. It tricked me last season, it tricked me again, but it will not fool me again. I always, when I'm watching this show, think to myself, well, it's not going to get weirder or worse than this. And it's never true. It's never true. We then bop back over to the house where one of the women, Jamie, is talking to one of the other women, Christina, and is like, can I tell you a secret and you not tell anyone? And Christina's like, of course, you can tell me anything. I would never tell them. And Jamie's like, the reason that I've been so standoffish and everything is because I have a boyfriend at home. Ma'am. Number one, incredible to come on a show like this and have a boyfriend at home. She does later say, like, I told him I was coming on this and, he knows. And, I told him we'll just see what happens after. Wild. But wilder to just straight up admit it like that, too. That's something you keep to yourself and you just pray it doesn't come out after the show airs. That was so funny to me. And then what happens next, as you can probably imagine, is Christina tells someone. Because what do you mean you have a whole boyfriend at home? And then all the women unionize. I love when a group unionize together, although this one did kind of get Salem witch trials. And eventually Jamie leaves us and is no more. And that's pretty much episode 3 for you. So time to get to episode 4. We get into episode 4 where we start to see more of poor Miles trying to mend his relationship with his distant father on TV. And once again, I just had to make a note about it so I could say again and again and again, criminal. I just cannot imagine. It doesn't matter. We can't harp on this forever, but it truly is just an unimaginable thought to me. So bad. We get into our challenge of the episode, which is a classic secrets revealed type challenge. In this scenario, they're in this kind of mud lane. I wouldn't call it a mud pit, just like a lane of mud. And there's a red flag on either side. And the 2 people who are competing against each other are tied together. And you're both trying to get your flag. And whoever gets their flag first, their secret isn't revealed. But the person who didn't get their flag, their secret is revealed. And they do it with the fathers tied against the sons, and then just the women tied up against each other. Odd concept, very layered for a secrets revealed challenge. Also upsetting because not everybody's secret gets revealed. It's much more fun when you get to hear everything about everybody. But I commend them, number 1, for trying. And number 2, as I was saying earlier, we're very consistent right now with challenge, date, a little bit of drama in the house. There's consistent flow and structure, which great. While I might not be agreeing with the things I am seeing on my screen, I can appreciate when a structure is working. For this challenge, the woman who got her flag fastest and the man who got his flag fastest got to pick somebody and go on a date. But the episode doesn't end there. Something I didn't tell y'all about that we'll have to bring up now, and it's the only time it gets used, so I didn't feel like I had to make a big point about it, is they have a room that they're calling the RILF room. Room I'd like to fuck in. Fuck. Or room I'd like to... The RILF room. While the name is dumb, I was very pleased with this addition of having a room like that, because last season, what was happening, which was criminal, was the moms and the sons each had a room that they had to be in. So obviously no hanky-panky, what was like ever happening. And when it was weird. So I very much liked this season, them being like, hey, here's a designated space. Also, it was less weird because the sons and the dads had to be in rooms together, but the women shared rooms with each other. So there was some layer of like, you could probably kick your roommate out. And the rooming situation overall, A+. And this episode, we get a couple who uses it. They are the only couple to use it, I'm pretty sure. That's the only one I noted at least. So we're going to go with yes. But I'm glad, even if only one person used it, that they had it. It made me personally feel better. So that's the one other, thank you point I'll give to the TLC producers. Episode 5 begins, and everybody gets sent to just a fun, relaxing beach day. Nothing to worry about here, but of course there is, because we're on TV. At this beach day, 2 more men are introduced. Connor, who is 28, and his uncle, 41, making our first uncle-nephew duo in the house.
How are you going to be uncle and nephew when every other dynamic in the house is father-son?
And truly, I had this exact same thought the minute they said this, and it just gets confirmed that it's silly to have them compared to all the father-sons they have, because they talk about how they go out and party together. While some of the sons and fathers, are close, none of them have a relationship like that. And I'm not saying no father and son could, but it doesn't appear that any of the fathers and sons who are currently in the house have that kind of relationship where they go out and party and pick up women with their dad. So it feels like a very unfair playing field to be put on, but whatever. Being the new people in the house, they get to each pick a woman to go on a date with. The date happens, bada bing, bada boom, nothing else to write home about. We start episode 6, and they're told, no challenges today. Chill, relax. But also, there is actually a challenge that the women are going to have to do. But no challenge today. But I don't even know. It was so funny because they made a point of getting a text being like, there's no challenge today. And then the next text was like, but here's the challenge you'll be doing today. It's so weird. Very odd. Why do that? Anyway, the challenge for this episode is the women have to take their phones and go upstairs and use the RILF room to take sexy pictures of themselves and sext the photos to the man or men that they're the most compatible with, the most interested in. I hated it. Why didn't the men have to do it? That's always going to be my thing. But then also, they get this with no context at all. They're just like, go do this. It's not like, and then the winner gets a prize, because there's not really even a winner in this scenario. And maybe that's why they didn't want to classify it as a challenge. But there is a twist that ends up happening. They just don't know what it is. So one of the very big things I did not like about this is on camera, none of them did this, but that does not mean it didn't happen and they just didn't show it, because, honestly, it would have been gross. But I feel in my heart that some of those people were sharing the women's photos with each other. I just don't see a world where that didn't happen, And maybe it didn't. I might be talking out of turn, but that possibility, because those are their phones. It's like Love Island. They have a phone that they get to have while they're in there. They can text each other with it, do whatever. And I just don't feel like there's a world where especially those younger guys were like, hey, we should switch photos. I don't buy that. And that's the thing I did not like about that challenge. I was like, I don't trust these men with that. And I don't think some of these women are there with some of those men. Weird challenge. And our twist that confirms that this not challenge is a challenge is if you did not receive a photo, you go home. So the men that didn't get any photo from any of the women end up getting sent home. And I actually got like kind of sad during this part, which shocked me because some of the dads and sons who were especially closer who were getting split up, like they were upset about it. And I was like, oh, and they were talking about how much they loved their dads. And I was like, that's precious. At least that's nice. That's nice. That's a nice moment. It's not going to last for long, but I can hold that in my little heart. Episode 7 starts, and we have 2 brand new women entering the house, Rebecca, who is 48, and Shauna, who is 44. Then it's time for the challenge, which arguably, in my opinion, was officially the most upsetting challenge to watch. You can give me your opinion in the comments, but this one capped it out for me. Even the ones after were not as bad as this one. I've spent like a solid minute trying to figure out how to describe this challenge in the clearest, easiest, least upsetting way. I'm gonna do my best. So, the different men are put into pairs and they're handcuffed, not to each other, just to themselves, hands behind their back. And then 2 women are each sitting in a chair with a slice of watermelon between their legs, and the men have to eat the watermelon from between their legs in kind of like a tag team sort of fashion, and the pair with the fastest time each man gets to pick a woman to go on a date with. That's the challenge. Incredibly upsetting to watch. So weird, so uncomfortable, especially for the poor people who were still father-son duos, because some of these guys are off like scot-free now. They're just in the manor. They don't have their dad, it's all good, or they don't have their son, whichever way it may be. But there are some of them that are still father-son duos, and I just kept putting myself in their shoes. Just incredibly upsetting. Hated it. Also just was gross to watch also. Didn't like it. And this is the point where we're going to start kind of flying through a couple episodes, because it starts getting to where it's mostly just the challenge and then just drama, which, to be fair, is a lot of it, but just less twists, less new people coming in, kind of really roll through these. We then get to episode 8, and again, while this is an upsetting challenge, I still stand by the last one was more upsetting. I don't want to say. There's a wall that they have built, and the wall has holes in it. If you know the name of this, great. I don't want to say it and get this video flagged. I've already said enough weird stuff. We're going to cap it at that. And the men each have to drop their pants and put their butt through the hole. And the women take turns going up and feeling each butt and determining who they think the butt belongs to. Yeah. I still think the other one is more upsetting. That's my opinion. Again, love to hear yours. If they're close. They're close. I'll give it that. We then go into episode 9, which doesn't give us a game-sanctioned challenge. Instead, the people who just won the challenge from the last episode are going on their date, and spliced into that, we're seeing moments at the house where the whole group has decided to play Truth or Dare together, and you can imagine this creates a lot of mess and drama. So we just kind of go mostly back and forth between these two situations. This nice date that's going pretty well, and just a catastrophe at the house, and that's episode 9. Episode 10 kicks off by giving us another uncle-nephew duo, Fletcher, who is 30, and his uncle Rob, who is 59. Our challenge for this episode once again splits them up: older men versus younger men. They are in teams where they're being presented together different questions, things like, what does a woman want most in a relationship? Things of that nature. The team have to collectively come up with a response, and the women decide whose response they like better, and whoever they like better, that team gets a point. At the end of it, the team with the least amount of points has to clean the entire manor, but there's no reward for the winners for some reason. The sons end up losing, and we see the dads later in the manor with like a bottle of champagne, drinking and, kind of harassing, messing with the sons, being like, you missed a spot, blah, blah, blah. But there's no date, there's no party, nothing. It's very weird. Very odd episode, especially because we're getting toward the end of Were you just running out of ideas here, or what was going on with this episode? We move on to episode 11, where the friends and family of the women come to visit, scope out the men they're interested in. I love a friends and family episode. I always like seeing the other side of the people. It's always a good episode in any reality TV competition show to watch. If they get like a letter home or any of that, I'm always a big sucker for those. I love them. It's also especially funny on this show because, for instance, this same thing happened last year and it happened again. One of the older women, her daughter came to visit her, and one of the younger dudes was like, oh, I wish she would have been here. It's like, my guy, you signed up for Milf, man, whatever. It was just so funny. What made this season's version of it extra hilarious was one of the older men is dating one of the older women, and that lady is whose daughter it is, and his son is the one who thinks her daughter is hot. I hope I got that as clear as I could, but just so funny.
She's the type of person that would have been awesome to have here.
It's not gonna happen. There's no way in the world Sam could be dating Michelle while I'm dating Kelly. Too weird.
Then again, doing a striptease in front of your dad or eating watermelon like that with your dad is also weird, so we're trying out new experiences.
Yeah, not that one.
This episode also brings us the one piece of drama I have to mention because it was just so funny. One of the women, Barbie, starts talking about how pretty much, she was talking to her friends before this and talking about the cons of being on the show. Kelly, who was also on season 1 and is here with us now, is like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? And Barbie says something about, it could be kind of like tacky. The show was kind of tacky. And they lose it. A whole brawl ensues over this. Kelly's like, well, then why do they bring us, like, why is there a season 2 and all this other stuff? And it's like, honestly, I don't know how to say this. I want to say this as gently as possible. Milf Manor can be tacky and still get a season 2. That's tacky is not a bar for non-entry into reality TV. Very funny fight to watch, though, just because I was like, ooh, kind of meta. We are into our final episode, and this brings us a compatibility challenge. All of them kind of have to separate throughout the manor, and on their phone, they're going to get texted different questions and have to respond to them, and only the people that are most compatible will stay in the house. You think that this would mean that each lady would only end up with one person. That ends up not being the case. One girl still has 2 guys. I guess they decided that both guys equally did the compatibility challenge. Don't really feel like that was explained. Just kind of glossed over. Just 2 of the guys went home. So it did turn out that every other woman only had 1 guy, except for this one lady. Just, I felt random. Just another structure note. I don't know. Kind of weird. Whatever. And after the compatibility challenge has ended and the 2 people are sent home who are going to get sent home, one of the women elects to leave. Her and that relationship had kind of been seeing where it wasn't going to probably work out in the future because they both wanted different things. It made a lot of sense for me to see her just be like, I'm just going to bow out. I'm just going to let this one go. And how we ended this one, this was another big check mark, yes, note. The ending for season 1 was so weird and just terrible. It made no sense. Left you just like, what happened? In season 1, they had all of them there together in this like big trust type circle thing. And the couples would each go up and read a letter to the other person. A lot of which were just a whole bunch of nothing and didn't really tell you in each case whether or not they had decided they wanted to keep dating outside the house or not. It was just like, just meaningless nothing. Very confusing, very bad ending. They completely fixed it with this one, and I was A+ proud about it. One by one, the women go to the dock where they are met with the man or men that they have made it to this point with, where they will have to decide if they want to continue dating outside of this experience or not. I just like that format a lot better. I like having each individual moment and it not be tainted by the other people who are hanging around, and it just be a very clear, yes, we are continuing dating, no, we're not some weird gibberish letter about feelings. I cannot get over how bad that finale was. Anyway, we are on season 2 now. We start the show with 6 women and we end the show with 6 women. All of them except for one just have one man that they're meeting at the dock. And out of the 6 would-be couples, 4 of them decide that they do want to stay together and explore the outside world together. Now is your time to guess, out of those 4, how many do you think are still together? I'll give you a second. 1! I bet you said 0. If you're like me, you probably said 0. But surprisingly, we did get 1, which I thought was incredible. And I'm just saying, the couple that is still together right now was one of the dads with one of the women. And I'm not saying that's the secret for it working, because there were other couples who didn't make it and all that, who it was the same scenario. But I'm just saying it didn't surprise me that that scenario would be the most likely to work out. And that leads me into my final thoughts about Milf Manor Season 2. Final thoughts, starting by kind of going off that last little bit of things I was talking about. This show made me realize how much I would just love an older version of like Paradise or Love Island. When I was seeing the relationships that were bonding between some of the older women and the dads especially, I just loved like the way they talked. And I don't feel like we have a whole lot of shows that are in that older age range. The only one that really comes to mind, and I was thinking about this earlier, is Ready to Love. That's generally mid-30s and later. But like even getting into some of these people were around 60. Like if you started at like 40 and then went up, or even maybe like late 30s, I would love just an older version of Love Island. I would love it. I would be so here for it. TLC, I know you love the weird family relationships, but I think this show is so close to being good. You do have to change the name though if you go with this concept, or maybe not. I don't think MILF necessarily has to mean you're with a younger guy. It's not like it's Cougar Island. You can still be a MILF and date people your age. So maybe there's some room to play around. I'm just saying, that's what I kept thinking the whole time I was watching this show. I was like, this show would be so much better. Sorry, Sons. If the Sons weren't here, that's my biggest critique. Probably, we'll see. Also, Golden Bachelor is a show that's like this. I thought of that, but I wasn't really counting that because I would like a show. I liked Golden Bachelor. I really did. I don't think I made a video about it, but I had a good time watching it. But I would like a new show where it's not just like the one guy with all the girls. I would like Old Love Island. That's what I want. So I just want to point out that I do know there's also Golden Bachelor, Golden Bachelorette, but also they've only done one season of that, and then the TBD Golden Bachelorette season that is when is it coming? So I know it exists, so you don't have to tell me that. I just wasn't really counting it because it doesn't fit into what I am asking for. Then it's time to talk about the criticism of, oh, if this was a show with moms and daughters dating older guys, people would be like in the streets rioting. And I think that is a very fair and valid criticism. I don't even really have much to add about it because I agree. I do agree. I don't feel like TLC could make a show like that and it go well. Who knows? Maybe it would be, but I do think that's a fair assessment to make. In my own personal opinion, though, both are equally gross and shouldn't be on our television. Counterpoint. But I do agree that the more general, wide viewing audience would be more upset about it if the roles were reversed, which again should make you think, why are we doing it this way? If it would be hated it. And I know I said it like 3 times, but I do have to end with it. Bringing a father and son who the producers had to know. There's no world in which they didn't know that these people are estranged from each other, and bringing them on to hopefully boost ratings in their show. Horrible. Made me so mad. I really hope that everything is well with both of them equally on their own or together, because I just can't imagine. I truly can't imagine being in that scenario. He handled it so well because I would have lost my ever-loving mind. Just like I would have lost my ever-loving mind doing some of those challenges, especially the worst one, the date. This, not the worst challenge, the worst date was when they made Kelly go on a father-son date and do tantric yoga all together. Terrible. Why? Like, that's just unnecessary. Like, I get them wanting to do shock and cringe. It's kind of what TLC's bread and butter is. But there's a point where it's just like, no, like, we're good. There's a time where you need to tap out. And I feel like the time should have been before somebody gave that date as an idea and it got greenlit. It's like, you already have the concept of older women with younger men, which is, like, taboo. And then them dating both father and sons or uncles and nephews. Both of those are already bringing a lot of shock and awe to the table. Every single challenge doesn't have to be weird. I thought every single date was going to be weird because that weird one happened early on. Thank God it wasn't. I don't even know if I might have had to stop watching if just every single moment was weird. But seriously, we don't have to make every challenge weird. The best challenge was the one where they were doing the questions back and forth. They got to razz each other a little. There was like some uncomfortableness because they were father and son, but it wasn't weirdly sexual. Every challenge doesn't need to be weirdly sexual. I'm begging you. If you want to keep this format, fine. If enough people liked it that you feel like we're going to make a Milf Manor season 3 and I'll be back here in a year talking about it, please at least do me the favor of just throwing in some normal challenges. Please. Please. There is enough. I promise you, the normal just premise of the show is doing a lot for you. Those relationship dynamics will do a lot for you. We don't need to be beaten over the head with the uncomfortableness. I promise you. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I really, really don't think I am. I love pleading with the producers of these shows, like any of them would ever see this video. But on the off chance, I have to shoot my shot. Very final thoughts. I would not watch this show of my own free will. I wouldn't recommend this show to anybody that I love or cherish or even like. I might recommend it to somebody I didn't like. It's not that bad. It's not like that much of a crime. But if I liked them, definitely wouldn't recommend. Again, the biggest props I have to give it is the show's structure and flow and all the technical things of a show worked a lot better this season. A lot better to watch. Felt like I always knew what was going on. I give them that. But what is what is happening within that structure just needs help, in my opinion. It's just not my kind of show. Maybe it's other people's kind of show. As always, I want to hear your thoughts, opinions, feelings about it in the comments, but it's a huge no from me. I am not going to say that there's not going to be a new season, because the last time I did it, I jinxed it. I'm just going to say, if they come back, you can bet your bottom dollar I will come back to talk about it, because I love garbage. Even if it's going to stain my brain and make me lose a couple brain cells, y'all know I will come back and talk about it again, because that's just who I am. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. If you've liked the video, don't forget to like it down below and maybe subscribe to the channel. And until then, I'll see y'all in the next one.